It's 2025 and you're always hearing about how it's important to love yourself. And you agree intuitively, you're like, yeah, it's a good thing to love yourself, but something is getting lost in translation. People are always saying to love yourself, but loving yourself seems like this abstract thing, like this big old mountain that once you get to the top of it, you're supposed to suddenly just adore yourself. But what I've come to realize on my journey, an active journey of learning to love myself that never really ends, you just kind of get really good at practicing it and hitting new normals. What I've learned is that there's a lot of little things that add up to this umbrella term of self-love. One of those things we're going to talk about today is building intimacy with yourself. Intimacy is a word that a lot of times we only think of in regards to other people or in romantic relationship, but intimacy doesn't just have to be that. Maybe you've heard someone say, "Into me I see." Maybe you've heard of platonic intimacy or just emotional intimacy, but really it's just this ability to connect deeply. There's a level of authenticity, there's a level of vulnerability that comes with intimacy. So when you apply that with yourself, it's really all about just being present with who you are. We live in an age with all this technology of phones and TV and games and all kinds of things that distract us from being present and in the moment with ourselves, which causes us to not know who we are. So with that, I want to give you 3 breakdowns of intimacy and how just practical, simple ways that you can build it within each aspect. I'm not going to give you a ton. It's going to be super practical. You'll be able to, as soon as you finish this video, you'll be able to start implementing these things right away. So, the first level we're going to address is physical. Physical intimacy is all about being present within your body, knowing your body. You're with your body 24/7 until the day that you die, and some people are not even comfortable enough to look at their body in a mirror. So, the way that you can build physical intimacy with yourself, I already gave you the hint, is mirror work. Everybody's going to start at a different place. Maybe when you look in the mirror, it might be hard for you just to do that, or maybe you can take it a step further and speak to yourself. I'm going to give you my personal practice. Actually, I'm going to give you one that I started with, just in case you're a beginner. If you're not a beginner, I want you to take this intuitively, but you're just going to, in the morning, stand in the mirror and smile. And you might find that even that is hard to do, and if it is, that's okay. Maybe you don't smile then, and just look at yourself. Look at everything and challenge yourself not to be critical or skeptical. I had to break the habit of looking in the mirror and immediately noticing like the imperfections on my face, whether it was a pimple or blackheads, or just immediately like looking for things that, oh, that needs to be fixed. I need to pluck my eyebrows. I had to take a chill pill and stop and physically and just say, good morning. Or as I say now, rich rising. You're perfect. I love you. Find your comfortability with yourself in the mirror, and eventually you'll be able to take it a step forward, and maybe you undress in front of the mirror and look at your body. Embrace the way that it folds, or maybe not embrace it and just look at it in pure acceptance of, this is the body I'm in, and it's okay and it's safe to be in this body. But the whole point in you practicing this physical intimacy is that you want to get to know yourself on a physical level, and mirror work is the quickest way to do that. I feel the difference of, let's say a few days go by and I didn't really have time to just look at myself. You know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah, we might look at ourselves in passing or make sure that everything looks fine before we leave the house, but to just really see yourself and to witness the whole of you, that's another aspect of knowing that's so important when we're gracefully making our way up the mountain of self-love. Now let's get down into the emotional aspect. This is where we're really going to work with our feelings. And I shouldn't say the word work because we're not going to do much working with them. It's about acceptance. Acceptance is the key here in this video. So let's say feelings of some form of sadness come up, right? I encourage you to just look at them and not judge it. Because a lot of times when we feel sadness, I guarantee you, there's an element of guilt and shame that we mix in there. We don't let ourselves totally feel okay with sadness. Either it's an inconvenient thing, or if it's in front of other people, we hide it. Cultivate that emotional intimacy with yourself by learning to just be present and accepting of what you feel in that time. A mantra of mine is that everything I feel is valid and deserves to exist. It's my behavior that it's my job to filter. When you practice this emotional intimacy with yourself, you build this bond, you build this reassurance within yourself, because when we anxiously show them, for instance, in romantic relationships or our attachment style, what we're really looking for is just reassurance of what we feel is okay and that we're going to be okay. So you learn to be that person for yourself. And this doesn't just work with the negative emotions, it works with the positive ones too. You would be surprised how many of us can't really hold space for joy and excitement and elation. Hope is a really big one. A lot of our nervous systems cannot handle hope, because with hope comes the possibility of disappointment. So we'd rather shut down hope ourselves instead of risk having it shut down by something else. So when you feel those joyful emotions too, come and be present with them and say it's safe to feel this. It's okay to feel this. And if you practice that phrase with all of your emotions, you'll see a big difference. I would say probably within a week or so. That was the case for me. And if you don't notice a difference, that's okay. Keep doing it, because in every situations, it's okay to feel and validate those emotions. And if some emotions come up that's too big for you, feel a tiny bit. Literally say that to yourself, like, I don't have to feel all of it, just a tiny bit. It's okay to feel a tiny bit of this. And that works too. So build that emotional intimacy with yourself. The last aspect that I'm offering to you today is the mental aspect. The biggest mistake that we make as people is the only thing that we want to work with is the mental aspect. This is why affirmations struggle to really get in there and thus affect our manifestations, but that's another video. The mental aspect goes hand in hand with the body and the emotional, more so the emotional. Once we validate the emotions, then we can start to really get in there with the reason and the talking. Think of it as like when a toddler is throwing a tantrum. When they're in the heat of the moment feeling those emotions, they are not trying to be reasoned with. Like, if you've ever seen someone try to talk to a toddler and they're like, calm down, it's okay, the toddler is not trying to hear none of that. They have to express that emotions, feel seen, feel heard first, and then once they've calmed down, then you can go in like, okay, let's talk. So the way you build mental intimacy after addressing the emotional and the physical is really just practicing how you talk to yourself. Are you berating yourself? Are you being super hard on yourself in your mind with your thoughts? Pay attention to the words that you say to yourself, and I want you to imagine that you're talking to your inner child. The thoughts that we have on a day-to-day basis are all formulated based on past experiences to help us best survive in the present. So if you notice that you have a harsh inner voice, well, things in your past, probably your childhood, must have convinced your mind that in order for me to be physically safe, I need to be harsh on myself, maybe even harsher on myself than the people around me, because if I make sure that I'm perfect, then I won't be in trouble. There will be no danger, if that makes sense. So I want you to go in and be as aware of your thoughts as possible and speak lovingly to yourself. Speak to yourself as if you're a child. If you make a mistake, before that voice comes in and saying, oh, you're stupid, why would you do that? I can't believe you messed that up. Pause it. Show yourself some grace and some compassion and be like, you know what? This is my first time doing this. I know that I want it to be perfect on the very first time of trying this, but maybe the next time. But you have to really bring in that loving self-talk. This is the part that everyone else talks about and will probably be the easiest for you. But building that mental intimacy really tops off the sundae ice cream on top of the other layers that we built as far as intimacy. So, just to recap, to build physical intimacy, it's about being present with your body. Practice mirror work, okay? When it comes to building emotional intimacy, validating your feelings, saying that it's okay to feel this, it's safe to feel this. Of course I feel this way. That person was an asshole. I'm right to feel like this, right? And then mental intimacy, practicing how you speak to yourself. Being kind, being loving as much as you possibly can, because I guarantee you, shame, guilt, and hate towards yourself has never been the answer. Because if it was, then you probably wouldn't need to watch this right now. Any other questions? Feel free to let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video and got what you needed. And if you like the vibe, please feel free to subscribe, and I will see you in another video. You take care.